Hello and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports for today's weekly rugby wrap-up. A new thing we're going to be doing where every week we're going to be doing a video just sort of summing up the headlines, the major movements in the rugby world with a focus on South Africa, but we will look at some stuff more internationally as well. So basically just a roundup of all the sort of the big news things that are happening at the moment. Before we get into them, please do subscribe to the channel, bottom right-hand corner there, smash like on the video as well. We are going to be doing a watch-along this afternoon between the Cheetahs and the Griquas. We want to do the Western Province versus Sharks, but it was postponed or cancelled, as we know, and therefore we're going to be doing the Cheetahs versus Griquas. That will be live at 4:30 South African time, so please do come hang out and have a chat on the channel. Right, so without any further ado, let's get into it. And the first thing we are going to talk about is the fact that the Sharks takeover is complete. A US consortium, which is named MVM, has officially bought a controlling share in the Sharks as they bought up 51% of the union. And this consortium comprised of a whole bunch of people, but the very big one, well, the interesting one, is that it is going to have a big ties to Rock Nation. And if those who don't know you, Rock Nation is a sort of worldwide agency with a lot of sports brands, a lot of sports stars. Sia Khaleesi assigned to them, Chase and Colby assigned to them. So there's a lot of people. It's been sort of, but the entire consortium has been headed up by a man called Mazzotti, who was born in Durban, in fact, and there's a whole bunch of different people who are involved, that are involved in various investment companies and various sports unions, stuff like that. So it's going to be a big move for the Sharks, and I think what we're about to see is, and the reason I mentioned Rock Nation so much, is that Michael Yormark, who's the president of Rock Nation, gave an interview, and they are going to be responsible for doing the whole sort of global expansion of the Sharks. And the whole idea, and what he said in an interview, is that they want to bring the best players to Durban. He says that he believes that the franchise can attract the best players. They're going to try and give the financial injection so they can bring the best players to Durban, which is a huge step. And I think what we're about to see, if they get it right, is a rise for the Sharks to become the best union in South Africa for quite some time. We've already seen the benefits that the Bulls have received with the financial injection that they have with their various owners. And now we're going to see a similar thing in the Sharks. My biggest thing means is that we've already seen how many big South African players from overseas have come back to the Bulls. Hopefully we'll see a similar thing with the Sharks, and try and bring the best players back to the country. So when we have competitions like the Currie Cup, we are seeing some of the best players in the world in South Africa, because that's what we want to see at the end of the day. And in terms of players they're looking at bringing in, Khaleesi to Sharks seems like a no-brainer at this stage. He was linked there previously already, and with this MVM Holdings takeover, it looks like it is very likely that he could then make the move from the Western Province to Sharks. He is already signed with Rock Nation. Rock Nation are a major part of the consortium and building the sort of global brand. So it just makes sense that you're going to take probably one of the most marketable rugby players in the world right now, move him to the Sharks, and sort of launch with him as your sort of poster boy. I mean, you think that he's right now heading up Adidas. He's got so many different brand deals at the moment. He's so marketable. He's such a big face in world rugby. It really does seem like a match made in heaven, really. So, yeah, we have to wait and see what happens there, but it should be some very big movements down with the Sharks. And next thing, we look at the Currie Cup. The Currie Cup playoffs have been postponed. The semi-finals were supposed to take place next week, Saturday, with the final scheduled for the 23rd. However, and in order to sort of keep the integrity of the competition, SA Rugby has elected to delay the playoffs by a week. Therefore, the semi-finals will take place on the 23rd of September. Of January, I'm not saying Saturday, the 23rd of January, with the final schedule for the 30th of January. So for those of you who are looking forward to semi-final action next weekend, it will not be the case. It will be the weekend after, which I don't think is a bad move, because I think there's quite a lot of COVID cases in both camps, and this sort of allows sides, especially after this weekend, to just sort of console themselves and sort them out and trying to sort of wait for all their players to get back. So when it gets to the semi-finals, we've got full strength sides going at each other. So it's a bit disappointing in terms of we have to wait an extra week. But hopefully it means that we have more level playing field, have all your best players available, and it should make for, hopefully, better rugby. So that is just in terms of Candice, mark it down. We will be live for both semi-finals. We will be live for the final. Don't worry, bringing you in-depth coverage there. So make sure you keep it locked on the channel. And then the final news, and some very big news, in fact, is that DYANTYI has elected to appeal his suspension. A report has come out this week saying that the wing, who was banned for 4 years, as a result of testing positive for 3 banned substances, apparently has elected to appeal the suspension. which could go both ways. I mean, if he wins the appeal, he can either reduce it or he can have it expunged completely, which means we could see him back quite quickly. I mean, for example, if he were to appeal and successfully win it and they reduce the ban to 2 years, it means he would actually return this year in August, which is huge, you know. So very interesting that he's decided to appeal, because obviously they believe they've got the grounds to do it. When the verdict came out, his lawyer said that they said that the verdict makes no sense. They said that they're more than produced enough sort of burden of proof that he hadn't doped and that it was mistakenly, and there was an issue with some of the supplements he had, and it was no intention and stuff like that, which is always a very difficult defense. And that was the biggest problem, is because you have to be able to sort of prove that you took every necessary step not to dope and that it was completely out of your hands. So they believe, obviously, there is a case trying to sort of save his career. He is still quite young, so if he can get that ban reduced, you know, and back this year, then great, and we have back for rugby. But, you know, it is a very dangerous road to go down, because if he loses the appeal, then, you know, it's suddenly, you know, it just sort of spin rolls, and you know, then everybody sort of goes and says, well, you know, what can you complain about, and tarnishes his name a little bit more, you know. So yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I personally I'd love to see him back on the field. You know, that's the biggest thing. So regardless of what happens, it would be nice if with the appeal situation, we could find out more about the case, where it went wrong, what happened, you know, why the decisions were made. Is he guilty? Is he not guilty? What actually happened with the situation? And then based on that, you know, whatever decision goes, we'll have to go with it. But as a rugby fan, I'd love to see him back on the park. You know, he's just got everything. He's got explosive pace. He's got a good skill set. He's a very, very watchable player. And it's a very nice story, you know. So it was such a heartbreaking story to sort of see someone who had risen from having no chance of ever being in that level to being the world breakthrough, the player of the year, and now moving down to this level. So we have to wait and see that it'll all sort of pan out in the next few months. But that is pretty much the weekly wrap-up. We will be back next week with another wrap-up. So let me know what you think of what's happening. What do you think of the Sharks takeover? What do you think will happen with Pierre DYANTYI? You know, let me know all those things down in the comments below. We will be live later, so please make sure you tune in, come and hang out and have a chat as we watch the last sort of closing stages of the Currie Cup group stages before we move on to the playoffs, which will happen in 2 weeks' time. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Stephen, and I'll chat to you soon.